Hey there everyone, Games Apprentice back with another Evercade video, and this week I'm going to be looking at the Team17 Collection 1 Amiga. I review Evercade carts a few times a month, so be sure to subscribe to the channel and ring that bell if you haven't already. Now personally I love Amiga and Team17, but it's really weird to see an Amiga collection that doesn't have Worms on it. That's because Worms already has its own collection, and you can check out my review of that here. It is, however, pretty cool to see these particular Team17 games because they're not ones that I'd heard of or played before. There are 10 games on this one. As always, here they are ranked from worst to best. Ranked last on the list is one of the worst fighting games that I've ever played, and I've recently played Rise of the Robots. That's still the worst though. You have one button for attack, jump around like some crazy frog, not that one, and you can't block. Moves seem to generally be about being the correct distance away from each other for perfect connection, or full contact if you will, and the sound effects are beyond annoying. Initially they started off quite fun in an amusing kind of way, but energy bars go down way too slowly, and any amusement I had was quickly replaced with anxiety that it would never end. Although this game's in 9th place, there's a huge jump in quality between these two games. Body Blows feels like the Amiga's answer to Street Fighter 2, although if it is, then it definitely misunderstood the question. Whilst the music and sound effects are pretty good and graphically it looks decent, it's really the core gameplay that lets it down. Watching this game, it looks like a pretty decent game, there's lots of cool moves, but once you start playing it then you realise it's a different story. It's another fighter with only one button, and when you see the sheer number of different moves that can happen in a fight, it seems baffling that a game can achieve all this with just one button, and it does it by lacking precision. Trying to pull off just a simple basic move can often lead into you accidentally firing off a special, making it a button basher's dream but competitive nightmare. Maybe it worked better in the Amiga itself with a joystick or keyboard, but everything you do just seems so random using the Evercade D-pad. Worse still, it's got a grown man wearing a baseball cap, which we all know is just a sign of a poor quality product. Now I've bought, rented and mysteriously obtained a number of games in my time, but I've never really wanted to own or play a pure bowling game. Don't get me wrong, I've really enjoyed bowling games in Super Monkey Ball and Wii Sports, but I've never really wanted to just play one that's bowling and nothing else. Enter Kingpin Arcade Sport Series Bowling, a very basic bowling game with little bells and whistles. You firstly select the weight of the ball, and you've got a full selection. It's not just whatever balls you can find that fit your finger that some little kid's not using. You then select how hard you want to throw it. Throwing it harder means you're more likely to knock more pins over, but it's harder to aim and you've less time to apply any spin to the ball. The aiming is done by a quickly moving cursor that you need to stop in the right place, and then you apply spin by pressing left and right. This is pretty similar to how Super Monkey Ball bowling works, and while this is probably a bit more challenging, that's just better. But I just can't imagine someone wanting to play a lot of this. Just finishing 10 frames without someone bringing me a beer or a plate of chips was a bit of a chore. If you love bowling but you dislike monkeys or swinging your arms, then maybe this will be up your street. Up next is Quack. Quack is a colourful arcade platformer in which you, as you'd expect, play a duck. Anything else would just be clickbait. You can jump and throw eggs, but have a limited supply, and you need to keep count in your head because it doesn't tell you anywhere on the screen how many you have left. The controls are responsive, which is nice for this sort of platformer, and it's the main reason that this game isn't further down the list because it's very basic. It's all on one screen, and you need to collect fruit for points and head through the exit. It's very 80s for something that apparently came out in 1993. It's certainly got charm, but even with its tight controls, arcade platformers just aren't for me, and this is not an exception. I feel like I played a lot of pool and snooker games growing up, whereas now I feel like I'd have to go out of my way to do so. I don't know if they've become less popular or if it's just because I didn't really get a say in what games were brought into my household when I was a kid. I'd be really interested to know in the comments what your experiences with pool and snooker games are. Was it just me, or are they just genuinely less popular? It's generally a genre that doesn't work too great with the D-pad, but I had absolutely no problems getting the shots that I wanted on this game. It's probably about as fun as it could be, but without at least motion controls or a mouse, there's really not that much fun to be had in this genre. At the end of the day, it's just pool. Now this is where the list starts to get a bit more interesting. Note the term interesting and not necessarily better. Alien Breed is a fairly atmospheric maze game / top-down shooter. You need to pick up keys to open doors and make your way through a maze that's heavily populated by aliens trying to kill you, looking fresh out of the film Alien. You can also pick up cash to get better weapons, more keys and useful items. It's a cool concept and it's not a game I can think of one similar on the Evercade that I've played so far, but it is very dated and some of the systems just don't hold up. Firstly, you can get stuck. If you use the keys in the wrong places, don't have any money and run out of ammo, all you can do is start over. It's also a really difficult game. Not just because you're constantly having to start over from making mistakes, but from constantly being killed by the monsters that just never stop spawning. I'd be surprised if many newcomers play this game and stick with it. Improving on the original in almost every way is the reliably named Alien Breed 2. What's next? Alien Breed 3? No! It looks better than the first game and plays a little better too. However, the first level is ridiculous. It starts you off outside of the base full of the alien breeds, in an area that's just been bombarded with helicopters and bombs or something, and you just need to find your way into the base. Usually, the first level of a game draws you in, teaches you the mechanics, and is fun. This isn't. By the time you get to the base, you've usually lost far too many lives and too much health to be able to get far. It's not as bad once you've memorised where to go, but it's a ridiculously hard opening level that barely even relates to the rest of the game. The same big issues that were in the original game still haven't been improved upon in this one, so while they have made improvements, they haven't made the vital ones. All-Terrain Racing is a top-down racing game similar to something like Micro Machines. You race through the tracks, being unable to see particularly far ahead, and pick up various power-ups and money along the way, similar to Super Off-Road. You can then use that money to upgrade your vehicle between races. It's a good-looking racing game that's quite fun once you've memorised the tracks, although it's quite difficult and the track design isn't the best. Still, the cars handle quite well, making for a pretty fun time. It does have a two-player mode which I didn't get to try, but from what I've seen of it, it doesn't look the best. Missing out on the top spot by some margin, to be honest, is Project X. Yet another side-scrolling space shooter on the Evercade. The visuals are fine but nothing special, and the sound effects are awful, to the point where I'd just recommend playing it on mute. Gameplay wise though, it's a lot of fun. Your ship starts out firing forwards and in a vertical line, and every time you destroy an entire wave of enemies, you pick up an upgrade token. You can either spend the upgrade token instantly or save it to stack them up and get better power-ups from the list at the bottom of the screen. It's a style that I really liked on another Evercade shooter on the Toplan Collection 1. It's a bit frustrating in that in some cases the new upgrades overwrite your previous upgrades and it's not obvious which ones do, meaning that you'll waste plenty of upgrades until you've figured it out. By miles, the best game on this collection is Alien Breed Tower Assault, and that is my Evercade gem of the week. This was the final Alien Breed game before the move to 3D, and in my opinion, this is the one that finally gets the formula right, improving on the right areas. Not only is it the best looking game, but it plays the best as well. Again, it starts out with you being in a sort of overworld before you get to the alien complex, but once you've run into a landmine or two and start taking your time, it's a lot more fun than it is dangerous. When you eventually make your way into the complex and start fighting the aliens, you'll see the best change this game has made. There's a finite number of aliens. You can finally play the game tactically, positioning yourself to take out aliens one at a time without worrying that it's just in vain as more will appear. This means that you're free to explore the game at your own pace, and it just feels like how the game is supposed to be. It's now fun and still challenging, but without feeling unfair, and it's perfectly suited to the Evercade handheld. So that's it. The Team17 Collection 1 is not a bad collection, but as 3 of the top 5 games are Alien Breed, if that's not your thing, then you can probably skip it, as most of the others are mediocre. I definitely want to go back and finish Alien Breed Tower Assault, but I don't think there's anything else on here that I'm particularly interested in playing any more of. That game definitely raises the average though, so I'm going to score this one a decent 6.5 out of 10. As always, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you want to see more of my Evercade content, and hopefully I'll catch you next time.